Okay, awesome. So let's begin now. Mazin has joined us. So Mazin, can you still hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
So let me introduce you before we begin our session. So first of all, if you're new to Kumi now, welcome. This is an initiative by Sabil, and we host sessions every Tuesday for related to a topic in Palestine every week, and then we also engage in actions together. So our latest Kumi Now online gathering today will be on the topic of building a sustainable future amidst genocide and ecocide in Palestine. And we have the privilege today to be joined by Mazin Qumsiyeh. Professor Qumsiyeh is a Palestinian scientist, author, and educator with an extensive background in biology and medical genetics. He has published over 150 scientific papers and several books on topics ranging from cultural heritage to biodiversity. His commitment to nonviolent resistance and environmental sustainability has been instrumental in advancing peace and justice and education in Palestine. And in Bethlehem, he is in charge of the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability. So it's thank you so much, Mazin, for joining us. Sabil has had a privilege with working with him and partnering with him on many of our delegations. So it's an honor for you to join us here virtually today to speak on this very important topic. So feel free to begin, and then you can talk for however long your presentation is, and maybe we can have a Q&A session after your presentation. I think you're muted, Mazin.
Okay. Okay, I hope everybody can see my screen, and I will start. I'll put it full screen. So, how much time, just to know how much total time we have so that I can leave half the time for question and answers?
Yeah, feel free to talk for 30 to 40 minutes, and then we can have maybe a 10 to 15-minute Q&A. Does that sound good?
Great, thank you. In the situation in Palestine, we have many of you are familiar what's going on in terms of the genocide and the destruction of the healthcare system in Gaza, and the now blocking of food aid and medicine, things like that, water even. Israel just cut off the electricity, which was only to the the water desalination plant, because Israel didn't allow electricity before for the other areas, but for the water desalination plant, it is not functioning now. So basically, there's no water available for 500,000 people are losing their water from this one desalination plant. There are other aspects of this ongoing genocide that are not as well known. And one of the areas that we did research on is the ecocide in Gaza. For example, we looked, this is 5 researchers, I was one of them, from 5 different countries. We looked at tree cover in Gaza, and you can see here on this satellite images by remote sensing how the destruction of the Gaza tree cover has happened. On the right side, the different colors are month by month for destruction of tree cover. And the accumulated tree crop destruction, you can see in North Gaza, is close to 100%. In Rafah area, it's still less, but this was as of the last satellite images we analyzed for this particular research paper, which was September 2024. So obviously, having a few months since then, probably now much more damage is in the Gaza situation. We also looked at greenhouse damages, and here you see, again in different colors, the greenhouse damages in North Gaza, Gaza City, Deir el-Balah, etc. And you can see that most of the greenhouses in the north have been destroyed. And sorry, I have to get this out of the way. But in the South Gaza, there's still some greenhouses standing, again, as of September 2024, but we know that the damage has continued since then. We are now using remote sensing to look at the green cover that's not agricultural land, but green cover like along the coastal areas or along Wadi Gaza, to see the damage to the green cover that is natural green cover. And we are seeing similar patterns of destruction. Wadi Gaza, for example, a protected area that you can see that comes here, splits North Gaza from south parts of Gaza or south governorates of Gaza. That Wadi Gaza is about 60% damage in terms of natural tree cover. Of course, the genocide involves other things, as I said, like healthcare. We did a research paper on healthcare. We did one paper on the damage to the universities in Gaza, research paper. Essentially, all the universities in Gaza are destroyed or heavily damaged, and for the past 16 months, of course, no university functions. This destruction that is meticulous and programmed is part of the agenda of the State of Israel from its foundation, to destroy the lives and livelihood of Palestinians. In the whole of the country, Palestine, of course, now divided into those artificial things called the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and Palestine 1948, or what's called Israel. But really, Israel rules over the whole area, not only on this area. Israel also occupies parts of Syria, where the word you see, Syria, is. They have even expanded in the past month to go into southern Syria and occupy southern Syria. And essentially, all the natural resources of the country, all the water, all the oil and gas fields, all the minerals are being exploited by Israel. Off of the Gaza Strip, for example, there are gas fields that, depending on who you read, can be anywhere from $50 billion to $200 billion. And what is Israel's game plan from its founding in 1948? This is not new. And Benjamin Netanyahu was just like Donald Trump, more open about agenda of empire building. So while, for example, Biden was doing empire building, he was more diplomatic about it than Trump. The same thing with Netanyahu, is less diplomatic than, let's say, Shimon Peres or Rabin, but they all had the same idea. The idea is very simple. There's going to be Asia, there's going to be Europe, and Israel as an empire, you see, is going to be the connection between those two, and control trade and control all aspects of the area of what is called the Middle East by colonial terminology, which is, of course, Western Asia, or the Arab world, if you want. Now, this is the part of my talk where I am going to switch, because the title I sent you that you advertised was about what can be done about this, not diagnosis. I don't want to diagnose the situation. We've done enough diagnosis. We wrote books about it. There are thousands of books that do the diagnosis. I wanted to speak about what can be done and what is being done successfully in many places, not so successfully in others, about changing the situation. What is the situation? To sum it up, my last email that I just sent today is basically an email that says that basically there's an imploding empire. The imploding empire is an empire of the United States and Israel, and this empire is imploding, is changing, it's being destroyed internally, not externally. It's not, empires never explode externally, they implode from internally, like the Roman Empire or the Spanish Empire or others, the Ottoman Empire. They weaken internally and then their last days. The problem for us, of course, in the developing country, in the global south, is that empires being destroyed are usually don't go out with a whimper, so to speak. They go out by destroying a lot of people. And so we have a lot of destruction happening, as you can see now, an ongoing genocide that's now estimated to be 250,000 Palestinians that have been killed in the past year and a half alone, thanks to this ongoing genocide. So this is the bottom line: is a transition in power is a transition that results in a lot of loss of life for the indigenous people around the world, not just in Palestine. You can see damage happening in Ukraine, in Sudan, in many other countries. Now, what can be done about this? What do we want to do? What we want to do is basically change this to sustainability of people and nature. And sustainability of people and nature means that basically you have to think about how you are going to allow nature to thrive and also people to thrive. This is especially relevant with climate change happening. Climate change is really, really worse than people even imagine, people who are environmentalists like me. I'll give you an example. Here in Palestine, and I'm speaking to you from Bethlehem. Bethlehem this year received 38% of the annual rainfall, average annual rainfall. This is the worst year since recorded history of rainfall measurements. And it's going to be horrible this summer, of course, on many fronts for our water situation. So what do we do? Well, we have to think of ways that we can act. One of the most important first steps to do in this is to do research, to understand what is going on, to publish papers like this in terms of biodiversity and environment conservation, to look at the history of conservation, our region, and look at the history, look at what's present, which species are endangered, which people and communities are endangered, and write research reports and also other reports, like we wrote the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan for the State of Palestine. We wrote the State of Palestine sixth national report, not annual actually, for the Convention on Biological Diversity. We redesigned the protected areas in Palestine to protect them at the different levels. This is a map of some of the protected areas in the West Bank, for example, and the ones that we studied and the ones we plan to study, etc. We did some work like this with the Land Research Center on environmental injustice in the West Bank. This report has over 800 references in it, over 400 pages packed with information about the environmental injustice. Understanding the layout, understanding the situation will help you address it. If I look at Wadi Gaza, for example, now we understand that this part of Wadi Gaza, that's the northwest part, is still relatively intact, whereas the part that's closer to the border, to the green line, is heavily damaged. So we can use some of the plants in the northwestern part to reclaim or replenish the land in the southeastern part. This is what the area that is now damaged looked like before. We don't have, unfortunately, a picture of it now, because of the restrictions on movement in this area. We're not able to get to that area. So doing research is number one. The second step is doing education and awareness making. The third step is to do direct conservation. And the fourth step is community engagement, not necessarily in that order, by the way. Sometimes all four are done in parallel. I'll give you an example from this area that we did some work in, and now we want to replicate this work in Gaza. We worked with 80 farmers in these four communities, Beit Jala, Batir, Al-Walaja, and Hussan. And you can see the farms in the dots and the different colors that we worked with in those farms. 80 farmers, 20 from each area. And half of them were women farmers. And we worked with them to show them how to increase their production while reducing their cost and protecting nature at the same time. And with the limitations that Israel, of course, stole our water, stole our lands, even now building a settlement right next to these farms in the middle that you see here that belong to Al-Walaja and Batir. The Al-Walaja Har Gilo settlement, and Batir is a new settlement just established. I don't know what the name they gave it is. But when we worked with these farmers, we showed them indeed they increased their production by 30% over a 3-year period on average. And they increased their knowledge of biodiversity and wildlife and conservation after the project concluded or during the project versus what they knew before. We also worked with women, as you see here, for marketing their products, for making products and marketing it. And this is very important to enhance their economic sustainability. We showed them how they can make even cosmetics from wild plants and things like that. Our institute, the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability, is an interesting institute that does a lot of work in those areas. We have executed over 44 projects like the one with these farmers. It's our vision, again, is sustainable human and natural communities. Our mission, as I said, research, education, conservation, community service. In this, we are bridging science, policy, practice gaps, science, policy, practice gaps. And we welcome volunteers from around the world who work with us. Over 600 volunteers have come work with us. as you can see here, doing a lot of work. We work also in lobbying and in actions like on the UN climate change conferences, and we have a group called Palestine Action for the Planet. In 2024, we had over 9,996 volunteer hours, 53 volunteers, 34 female, 19 male. We received $150,000 in unrestricted funding and 9 funded projects. Again, this is just 1 year. We did 132 educational activities, over 600 seminars and talks throughout the year. So that's almost an average of two talks a day, like the one I'm giving you now also. We publish a lot of papers. I mentioned the paper that's with the, other colleagues from Sweden, England, Canada, and the US. And Palestine, of course, us. This is a paper that was published in the journal called Science of Remote Sensing. And these are just the papers in February that we submitted or got accepted, published, press, etc. Our institute is growing, and you can see here there's a new building that we are constructing. This is what it would look like. There's a bus top, etc. This is the back of it, and this is from another angle of what we are building. But our ambitions are much, much bigger than this particular institute. For example, we started to actually look at replicating this institute in Gaza. And this map here on the top is what I envision the Gaza Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability branch is going to look like. And on the lower images are AI, artificial intelligence conceptualization for the Gaza Institute, Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability. We are working with colleagues around the world on various aspects of Gaza restoration, reclamation of habitat, the Gaza Strip, etc. That's provided that they allow us, of course, the Israelis and their American benefactors allow us to do this. But this is my dream nowadays. Is what I'm dreaming about is how we can serve in the Gaza Strip in similar ways that we have succeeded, despite incredible odds in Bethlehem to do this. I have to always remind myself, and we all have to remind ourselves, that it's people that count. These are the faces of people from Gaza Strip that keep me awake at night thinking of them. Hungry, I have lots of friends and colleagues in Gaza that have been going hungry, and now they're eating wild plants. I end with those two pictures. This is Mother Mary and baby Jesus, and an icon, and a woman from Gaza with her baby. And if you want to know what Mother Mary looked like and baby Jesus, that's how they would have looked like. Or like this. This is Mary again, in the depiction of Mary and Jesus. So you can help us, of course. You're welcome to donate to us. You're welcome to donate to Gaza. I put here some links. This meeting is being recorded, so you can get these links later. I'm also happy to share this PowerPoint with people. This is our website, palestinenature.org, and you can contact me at info@palestinenature.org. So I will stop here, and happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Mazin. the first question I have is, what has been the response of the international conservation and environmentalist community to the research and work that you're doing on like the environmental impacts of occupation and genocide? Like, has it been positive? Has there been an increase in responses the last few years?
Well, judging from the citation index of these papers, a lot of people citing them and a lot of people reading them. Also, you can now tell from like when you put a paper on ResearchGate, how many people want to read it, or the opening in the website of the journal itself, that there's a lot of people reading it. You can even parse those people by country. And ironically, I see a lot of Israelis reading our papers. I guess that's good news. Some of them are not happy, of course, about what we write, and especially that we keep emphasizing the impact of colonization on the environment, the ecocide, things like that. In terms of the reception of the common people about these issues, I went on a trip in November and December last year to where did I go? To England, Ireland, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and the United States, and there was a lot of good reception of people wanting to hear about subjects they don't normally hear about. They always hear about blood and mayhem and Hamas and all the stuff. They don't hear about the genocide of our environment, the ecocide, destruction of our tree covers throughout Palestine, not just the Gaza Strip, by the way. Here in the West Bank, there's been a lot of destruction of tree cover. There's been diversion of the water of the Jordan River. There's been all sorts of destruction thanks to the colonizers.
Thank you, Mazin. So there's a question here about what you talked about. I think it was a project of educating farmers, the Al and Bareen, I think. And someone asked in what ways did they increase production? So if you could go like expand on kind of the work that you've done with that type of education.
Yeah. So as an institute that's focused on educational efforts in addition to the research and the direct community service, we work with children, with marginalized communities, with women, with Bedouins. We have even a mobile educational unit, a mobile museum. And this mobility of our educational system is what helps us get to marginalized communities. And it's we think it's very critical because eventually it really makes a difference in people's lives in the way they approach things. They start to grow their own foods, for example. Even we brought many years ago when we were allowed to, well, we weren't allowed to, but we got the German government to help us bring some Gaza farmers here in Bethlehem and show them how to build aquaponic systems which allow you to grow fish and vegetables at the same time. So we trained 12 farmers. They went back to Gaza and they built these aquaponic systems, and they were getting good production from them. But of course they were all destroyed in the last 16 months. So we try to outreach, we try to show people, to empower them to have food sovereignty, things like that.
Thank you, Mazin. And in extension of that, you talked a bit about the projects and the visions that you have in regards to Gaza. And someone also asked in terms of, you mentioned the restoration of habitat. So could you expand on this? In what ways are you working on this specific area?
Yeah. I wrote a paper about the impact of the conflict on the environment and how for example, residues of bombs like white phosphorus and depleted uranium, etc., that are devastating to the environment. This is based on previous literature, previous research done in other countries, including Iraq, Lebanon, and Ukraine, and so forth, showing that, makes you start to think, well, okay, we know the damage, we know it caused a lot of damage, but what can be done? What can be done? Let's say I have access to Gaza today, and I have a lot of money, assuming I get some money. What would I do? How would I, for example, work on soil remediation? What is a way to get the soil to become fertile again? How do I get rid of these residues of war? These are things that are not researched enough yet. I don't even know what good plants can be grown that will extract. Maybe you need to grow some plants that will extract the poisonous material, sequester them in those plants, and then you can take these plants and put them somewhere else or dump them, and then the soil will be a bit cleaner. So there's a lot of research to be done, and some of this research we can do here in the West Bank in our botanic garden. We have botanic garden, we have a community garden, but we need, of course, money, resources, and eventually we need access to Gaza Strip to do this. In next month, I'm going to Lebanon, and I'm going to see if the people in Lebanon have resources to get us to the south of Lebanon, and maybe do some research in the south of Lebanon, because that may be more accessible than Gaza for us. And Israel used the same weapons basically in those areas. So we'll see. I mean, there's so much work to do. That's why we'd love to have volunteers. If you are interested, you don't have to be a biologist or environmentalist or toxicologist to do this kind of work.
That's great. And I think there's questions in the chat also about people who, they're not scientists, but they want to read your publications to educate themselves and explain the situation to others. So is it possible to access your work anywhere online?
Yeah, so go on our website, which is easy to remember, palestinenature.org. And under research, you'll find some papers. Some of them will be technical, but many of them will also be not technical. So they are accessible to the common people. Maybe the remote sensing paper is way too technical even for me. I was not an expert in remote sensing. That's why I needed the collaborators from 4 other countries. But most of our papers do not require technical knowledge to read them. They are written for lay people, so you can read about the environmental destruction.
And
Mary Ann,
yeah.
by the way, has raised her hand if you want to.
Yeah, Mary Ann, if you have a question, you can unmute.
You are muted, Mary Ann.
Oops, there we go. Hello, Mazin. It's so good to meet you this way. I read your emails and I so appreciate them. So I had been a part of the struggle in Vieques, Puerto Rico, where the United States had practiced with the depleted uranium bombs. And I learned from one of the people that started a newspaper there, Charlie Conley, who had children and grandchildren. He was worried about the contamination for the kids. And he discovered that cilantro or coriander is the perfect herb to use in order to draw the heavy metals out of the body. But it is also really great for cleaning fields, that you can grow the cilantro and it will draw the heavy metals out of the ground. So I don't know whether you'd heard of that.
I haven't heard of this. Thanks for the tip. I will look into it.
Yes, yeah. My niece is a farmer or has been done local farming in upstate New York in Ithaca, and she confirmed that the cilantro or the coriander draws the heavy metals out of the soil. So
Yeah,
I
sounds
try to
good.
get it.
Just to let you know, by the way, I have 4 volunteers around me. They're listening to this. They
Oh,
were
great.
eating star
Uh-huh.
earlier. I was also fasting. I managed to eat a bite before this talk.
Oh,
But anyway, one of those people is a botanist. He's next to me,
oh,
Balin,
very
and
good.
we can pursue this subject.
Yes, and I was going to suggest that if you reach out to the University of Puerto Rico or look into the archives of the Vieques Times, that that was the newspaper that Charlie founded, and I'm sure the info is there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Mary Ann, for that.
Yes,
University of Puerto Rico.
in Rio Piedra is the specific campus that you could go to. I had presented 7 times in front of the UN Special Committee on Decolonization, specifically about the use of the DU as an example of the abuse of the colonizer, of the colonized peoples. So,
I am actually working with a group of veterans for peace on the DU issues.
oh yeah.
We have weekly meetings every Monday on depleted uranium issues.
Oh, I bet I know some of the people. Jack Gilroy. So,
Yes.
yeah, Jack is my dear friend. We do a lot of actions together.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Mary Ann, for that suggestion.
Sure.
Very important. I think someone also asked, how do you people make arrangements to volunteer with the Institute since there's some interest in being involved?
Yeah, our website, palestinenature.org. Just go there, palestinenature.org, and then under get involved, you can find the volunteer link or palestinenature.org/volunteer, and it has a lot of information about how to volunteer. We provide room and board and good food for volunteers. We just had a very nice meal. You want to see?
Delicious.
So that's at the Institute. So you would be more than welcome. And you can also email me. Those of you who are not on my email list, by the way, I'd love to add you to our email list. It's a weekly email list, as you heard from one of the people, Marianne, who said that she gets it. So send me an email at info@palestinenature.org, and I'll add you to our email list, and that way you will learn about activities and projects. Actually, even like I give talks like this regularly in different topics, not the same topic. But tomorrow I'm giving a talk, and also Thursday I'm giving another talk, and then on Saturday I'm getting 16 people from Sabil actually here who are here on a tour. So they will be touring our museum and botanic garden and community garden and all this stuff.
Yeah, and I'll put your email down for people so that after the meeting they can send you an email or subscribe to your weekly updates. And then I think one last question to end our meeting. For the international citizen, for people around the world who want to be involved in climate justice and environmental justice and bring that into their activism with Palestine, what suggestions do you have or what advice do you have for them?
Well, I mean, environmental justice, of course, is the larger issue. Climate justice is part of it. There are other environmental issues like pollution and habitat destruction and overexploitation, war and weapons are all destroying our environment. So to work on environmental justice is like to work on any justice issues. You have to first kind of familiarize yourself with what's going on, even in your own community. I'm sure there's plenty of issues to deal with, environmental issues. The reduction of carbon emissions, the recycling, not using plastics, things like that. Everybody can do this. Everybody can be an activist. That's the beauty of environmental justice, is that everybody can be involved in it. It's relatively safe. It's not like speaking out for Palestine even. It's I guess you heard about our friend Mahmoud from Columbia University, who was arrested. He is a green card holder, actually, in the US, and ICE came and arrested him because he was an organizer speaking out for human rights for Palestinians. And he had, he was arrested in front of his wife, who happened to be like 7 or 8 months pregnant. So, and they want to deport him, even though he's a permanent resident of the US. There's a lot of issues to deal with and to act on. On my own website, which is Qumsiyeh.org, I'll put it in the chat, or you can put it in the chat, but it's a simple Qumsiyeh.org. Right on the first page, there's a list of things you can do, 76 things you can do. Obvious why 76. I increase them one every year since the destruction of Palestine started in 1948. So you can look at that and see what can be done in your area, whether it's boycott, divestment, sanctions, etc. And it is working. I mean, the profits of groups like McDonald's, Starbucks, and Kentucky Fried Chicken have declined significantly since the genocide started, that's supported by the American government and the taxpayers. Look at Tesla's stock, by the way. Tesla itself, the stock declined significantly, losing 128 billion in value over the past month alone.
Yeah, this is amazing. And yeah, I recommend everyone check out the website, because you detail a lot of things, and that we need to continue to be committed to BDS. It's very important. Are there any last questions for Mazin before we thank him? Okay, I don't think I see any other questions in the chat. But thank you, Mazin, for your time, and
send me an email if you're not on our email list, and let's stay in touch and come visit us in Palestine. And if you want to just visit, ahlan wa sahlan. If you want to volunteer, food and room and board.
thank you, Mazin. And greetings to your volunteers for the work they're doing as well.
All right, thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye. I go finish my iftar now.
Thank you. Okay, so as Mazin leaves us, we can maybe shift to a conversation about action today. So the kuminow.com/action page today is updated. We've included actually 3 links to what was just mentioned, Mahmoud Khalil's campaign. So I'll just link this in the chat and read the current campaigns out loud. So in regards to Mahmoud Khalil, I think many of you already know that he was arrested and kidnapped essentially by the Department of Homeland Security over the last weekend. And there's been reports that he's been taken as far as Louisiana in an effort to continue to try to get him to be deported. So there's 3 links in the website or in the page where you can sign a petition. So there's a petition from, I think, the Deportation Defense group for demanding his immediate release, which already has over 2 million signatures. So you can join in that call. There's another letter that you can also sign, and this will send this letter directly to the current head of ICE. So that's one direct letter that you can send. And then there's also a donation that you can make to his campaign. I think his family is currently raising funds for his legal defense, and that's something that you can directly do to support what he's currently going through. So I'll put the direct links, but you can also visit that on the site that I just mentioned. Other campaigns that are new that haven't been mentioned last week was Run the Wall campaign for Palestine. So thank you, Hazel. I don't know if she's here, but she recommended we share this. So between 25th to 27th, April 2025, there's an international call to run for Palestine. So they're requesting you run, walk, cycle, or swim for 5K or 55K. It doesn't matter how far. It's the solidarity that counts. And while you're running, you can raise funds for an emergency appeal for Gaza and the West Bank. And this campaign is currently being hosted and run by the Amos Trust. So I'll also put the link there. You can read about how can you get involved if you want to run a marathon and kind of fundraise through your community for the West Bank and Gaza. So I'll send those 2 links. And then if you have other suggestions or updates, I know Mary Ann, you had sent me an email actually about a hearing tomorrow. So you can raise your hand and talk about that if you would like. And yeah, and if there's any other things in the chat, I'll make sure to read that out loud for everybody. So thank you. Mary Ann, feel free to unmute.
Okay. So my sister Ellen will be sentenced tomorrow in the Syracuse Federal Court. She was found guilty last week, but as she held the sign going into the courtroom, she named that genocide is the crime, not going in to talk with our senators to say, don't send $20 billion more to Israel. So anyway, Ellen is facing only 60 days in jail that would be a total for the both charges that she had, plus possibly $5,000 bail per charge. So that's a $10,000 max. And we are hoping that the judge be lenient. And we're not sure whether she'll have to report to jail right away. Not sure where she would be sent either, because it is a federal trial. And usually they send you to a federal prison, but it's a short sentence. So anyway, we'll see. But her statement was very powerful. And I don't know, Tan, whether it may be posted at our Ethical Catholic Workers list, and I can ask them to post it there, and then I can send you the link. Ethical Catholic Workers is our website. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary Ann. I
Yeah.
think you send me like a YouTube link, or is it like not published yet publicly?
I don't know whether Leslie has posted Ellen's statement. Things are happening so quickly. Another little bit of news is that I forgot how to say the woman's name, but she's. Let me just look real quickly. Let's see. Sent Libni. No, that's not her name. What is the person's name? Hold on. Tzipi Livni, is that how you say her name? Former foreign minister, vice prime minister of Israel, came to Cornell along with Ryan Crocker, and they spoke up at Cornell in one of the huge halls. and about 30 of the students went in, and 2 of them were arrested last night. So that's the latest on the students locally. But and I think it was just trespass kind of charges or disorderly conduct or something like that. So low offenses, nothing major. So
Thank you so much, Mary Ann, for the update.
yeah.
And yeah, I'll be sure to share the link once it comes out. So feel free to send me the email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I see some other links in relation to Mahmoud Khalil, and then broadly to protect Palestinian students and pro-Palestine students. So there's one link here that Carol just put that's for congressional action, and then Jessica also shared some direct actions you can do to tell Columbia University to protect students, and then in general for protecting students' rights on campus. So thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Carol, for those. And I've put the link down for the Run the Wall campaign that you can do. So if you like running, you can kind of put that in your calendar. That's near the end of April, and you can plan for that. And they have steps for you to register to put in your action. So that would be just a quick action you can do for that day. And yeah, and I also put a few other links for Mahmoud Khalil, so you can see that in the chat or visit the action page. Jean, you have your hand raised?
I have a copy of the photograph comparing the icon and the Palestinian woman and child, but I have never seen the one on taking down from the cross of a kind of icon type painting and then a Palestinian mother. Do you know what the source of that painting is?
Are you talking about the ones that Mazin shared today?
The one that he shared today. And as I said, I
Um,
have the one, but I've never seen the other one before. And I was
I'm
just
not sure
wondering
where
if you know.
the source of it. But I can definitely take a look into it. I think he's sharing the presentation later with me, and I can get back to you on that. But actually, there's an interesting article about the history of iconography in Palestine, and the origins of that. So I can maybe share that in the chat if you're interested actually in learning more about iconography and the Palestinian origins of it.
Thank you.
And thank you, Jessica, again for sharing the PDF. You've been very good at sharing actions, so we really appreciate it. And I think I put some of the actions that Jessica shared last week as well on the action page. So these are really quick actions you can do. So it's just signing more petitions and letters, which are important. So you can go on the action page and just click those links, and it'll take you probably just like 2-3 seconds to do. I'm also not sure how many people are on the Sabio newsletter. So if you're not on the Sabio newsletter, let me send you a link. But we have started also doing a resource of the week highlight. So this is going to be in the newsletter every Monday, which we release. We will be sending out a resource that we either created or one of our partners created to kind of help people understand more about Palestinian liberation theology and then the broader, context of Palestine. So I'm hoping that will be helpful to folks because we have a lot of resources in terms of liberation theology and the history of liberation theology, I think, that haven't been really, really well advertised, I think, in the past. So we're trying to do this in our newsletter. So I'll send you the link as well in the chat here if you want to sign up for our newsletter. And yeah, hopefully that can be helpful to folks going forward. Diane?
Yes, I have a question. I was just filling out the letter to senators and Congress people, and it said there's a question: what is this about? What category is it? Does anybody know what category did you put down when you filled it out? Like, is it commerce? Is it, all these different things? And I was just looking it over, and I thought, oh, well, I'm still in the group. I'll ask what they put down. For this is Mahmoud Khalil. Okay, law or crime. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's a good question, Diane. Yeah, I feel like might be a number of things that can go in that category, but it's good that people are giving you some suggestions.
Civil rights, that sounds like a good one. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I hope these actions continue to be helpful for everyone, and that it's easy to complete on the website. I will let you guys know that next week, so hopefully the daylight savings time change wasn't too confusing for folks. So we'll be meeting at 12, if you're in the US, we're meeting at 12 p.m. Eastern time until I think like April 10th, around then. And then after that, it'll be back to 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then I think in the UK, there will be also about a week or 2 weeks of that gap as well, at the end of March. So I'll make sure to notify people when that happens in the UK and other contexts or under other countries. So in the meantime, next week, we will have Sam Bahor, who will be joining us to talk about economic occupation and the economy, the political economy of occupation. So he will have a lot of important things to say about this. And he's a great speaker. So I'm hoping that everyone can make it next week. And thank you so much for all the actions that were shared today. And as always, we will try to send out an email in the coming days summarizing the actions to make it easy for folks. Sam Bahor. So I can spell his name. He's quite active on Twitter and social media, so you can see his work.